Now moving on to the next section, how to make command words in bio easy to understand. So we need to interpret this to give the question what it wants. If not, you are not going to score because it's not going to be relevant. So let's start with the simplest one, which is state. So when they ask you state blah blah blah, they want a short answer to the point. Sometimes it's just one word only. Don't give any explanation. Don't say how did you get the answer or like explain more in the process or how this came about. Please don't kiasu. This is not an explain question, it's just a state question. Okay, so I'm going to give you some examples of state questions. Like this one, state the part labeled A, right? And that's it. A lot of people, right, they will say, oh, the part labeled A is the ovary. Just say ovary. You'll still get the full marks, okay? Just write one word. Okay, then they state the time that this anaerobic exercise began. 5 minutes because blah blah blah. Don't say because, don't explain. Just say 5 minutes, full stop. Okay, so it's very easy. Please don't waste time giving more than it needs. You need to spend that time on the other questions, right? Like the describe and explain questions. Okay, sometimes state questions require a longer sentence. Okay, but you must still keep it brief because it's just a state question. So example this one, state the short-term and long-term effects of excessive alcohol consumption. Okay, for this we actually have a memory shortcut, and even if you're not our student, you have full access to the memory shortcuts to make this syllabus much easier to remember and to recall. Okay, so where are the memory shortcuts is in our free notes. So on our website, or if you're on the Telegram channel, there's many links to that, the free notes. Just search ThatBioTutor free notes or link in my bio. So get the free notes because inside, okay, like I'll show you an example. Let's go to, every time you see this kind of light bulb thing means there's a memory shortcut here. And it helps you memorize the content much faster. So the memory shortcut is students drinking alcohol unleashes chaos for brain. So this is for the effects of excessive alcohol. So self-control, reduce self-control, and D is for depressant. Okay, then the rest is the long-term effects. These are long-term ones. So notice for this answer, I'm not going to like go through every single thing because I'm not trying to teach you the content here, but more like the skill. So you notice how in this state, right, what we're doing is we're stating in just one sentence and we're making it brief. So here, another one. Yeah, but we don't explain deeply. We don't say like, oh, it is a depression, it slows brain functions because like it interferes with the neurons and then that's how it slows it increases the reaction time. No, we don't need to say all this stuff. Like just a very brief one is enough. So don't explain how, don't explain into it, don't elaborate into it. Just one sentence is maximum. Okay, next we move to describe questions. Okay, so here's where it's going to get more detailed. Pun not intended. Because describe is about giving details about something. So it can be about bioprocesses. If they ask you describe the process of inhalation, right, then the memory shortcut is DIRVA, D-I-R-V-A. So diaphragm, intercostal muscles, rib cage, volume, thoracic volume, and then air pressure. So that one is a bioprocess that describe questions can be asking about this kind of thing. Sometimes describe questions are asking for data, quoting of data. So if there is a table in the question or a graph in the question, then you must quote data in your answer. Okay, and marks can be awarded for these kind of data questions without bio content. So even if you didn't study at all, but if you quoted the data and you described it, you can still score marks. Quite amazing, right? Okay, so there are these two kinds of describe. There's some that is about bio, and then there's some describe questions that are just about data. Okay, and later I'll go more into detail about the data response tricks. Okay, so type 1, this is the describe data kind of question only, data response. And so here's just an example, like describe the trend shown by the data in your graph, 3 marks. Okay, and they actually don't want you to explain it. They just want to say, describe the trend. So for example, this one, okay, if I were to describe this trend, I'll say, okay, from 0 to 10 minutes, right, it remains constant. What's this? Concentration of lactic acid remains constant at, this is like what, 90 mg per dm cube. I'll say that it remains constant. Okay, so that's 1 mark already. Then from 10 to 20 minutes, it increases sharply. Okay, I'm assuming this is a 3 mark question. Then from 10 to 20 minutes, it increases rapidly or sharply to, what is this point? 810. Okay, then from 20 minutes to 60 minutes, it decreases less sharply, or I can say gradually. Okay, it's not very gradual, honestly. I could say steadily, because it's quite a steady rate. Steadily to, 90 again. Yeah, so that would be 3 marks, right? 1 mark for remains constant, 2 mark for sharp increase, and then 3rd mark for the decrease. And that could give me the full marks already. You notice there's no bio explanation, right? I didn't need to explain anything about how lactic acid is generated and blah blah blah. Okay, so a lot more of this data response stuff we'll go through later in that section. So here is the type 2 question where it involves bio content. So like this, describe process that generates pressure in the aorta. So this one, there's no data required, right? It's just about explaining how. So we say, okay, during ventricular systole, left ventricle will contract, blood will move from left ventricle to the aorta, and that increases the pressure in the aorta. Okay, notice why it's not very long, because it's only 1 mark question. And remember the fired checklist, D is for depth of how long should I write. Okay, so here's another example. Describe question, right? The functions of the liver. So this one is actually just bio. It's just that bio content they're asking for. Okay, and good news, this one we have a memory shortcut also. It's called don't have bag. Like, where's my bag? I lost it. Yeah, don't have bag.
Put the money in the bag. Put the money in the bag. Okay, let's go. Put the money in my ass!
So DH, bag. Detoxification, converting harmful substances into harmless ones. Breaking down hormones happens at the liver. Liver produces bile and then stores it in the gallbladder. Liver also takes amino acids and converts it to urea. So, excess amino acids and breaks it down to urea. That's called deamination. And liver is also involved in blood glucose regulation, where when there's excess glucose converted to glycogen, and then when there's a lack of glucose, glycogen is broken down to glucose to increase the blood glucose levels. Okay, and then that's how you get the 5 marks. So we're just describing. So it's just pure bio content. Okay, now we come to explain. And there are some differences between describe and explain that I will point out later. I'll show some examples. Okay, so explain is about giving reasons. Why? Basically, the question is, why is this happening? Why? So, reasons, bio content reasons. So it must come from your content knowledge, from your syllabus, from things that you have learned in the syllabus. Okay, and these are not going to be directly found in the question. If not, they're just giving you the answer, right? So it's not going to be in the question, but you have to infer it from your content knowledge. So let's look at some examples. Explain how getting vaccination prevents person from infection by that virus in the future. So this one is a predetermined explanation. You can rehearse this explanation out, which is fantastic. Okay, and we have a memory shortcut for that also, which is a strong team ready to attack. So vaccines have an agent that resembles the pathogen. This will stimulate the white blood cells. Okay, then some white blood cells will remain in the body for a long time. When the real pathogen invades, they will quickly recognize and produce large amounts of antibodies. So that is the predetermined explanation. Fantastic, right? This one is rather easy. So we are giving bio content to explain this line, which is how vaccination prevents person from infection in future. So this is the reason, the bio content reason for this outcome. Okay, and the good news is that quite a lot of the bio reasons like this are rehearsable and can be memorized. Okay, and later I'll mention more about CAQs and rehearsable answers. Okay, so notice with memory shortcuts, the template explanations become very easy.
Come on, man! That's too easy!
Okay, which is why learn and study our memory shortcuts. Okay, there are implicit explain questions within a describe question. So it disguises as a describe question, but it's actually an explain question. So how to tell? There will be this phrase, describe how. That's your signal that it's actually an explain question. So like you see this one, describe how the kidney nephrons help achieve homeostasis when someone eats too high salt. So we have to explain the bio content behind this, right? Which is that, okay, firstly, there's two parts of this question we need to explain. One is, how does the body achieve homeostasis of water potential? Water. Second one is, how does the body achieve homeostasis of the amount of salt? Because there's too much, right? I need to get rid. So we need to explain these two things. Okay, the first explanation is here, how we achieve water potential homeostasis, which is the ADH explanation. So more ADH is released by the pituitary gland, then collecting that become more permeable to water. More water will be reabsorbed, and that increases the blood water potential. Okay, I forgot to put in here, but there's actually, let me find. Okay, here. There's actually a memory shortcut for the ADH explanation. Okay, so just now I said ADH secretion, collecting ducts, be more permeable, right? This is from the template answer as well. So Then we talk about the excess salt. How we explain how is this kicked out of the body because there's too much. So how we kick it out is we don't selectively reabsorb it. Because after ultrafiltration, everything's pushed out, right? Or almost everything's pushed out. Then we just don't take it back in. The excess, we just leave it there. Then it becomes part of urine and then bye, it goes out when you pee. So notice how it's an explain question, right? We were giving bio reasons to explain this outcome. And it's from our bio content. So describe how basically is a explain question. Okay, yeah. So here's another example from our notes I screenshotted. Describe how alveoli are adapted for exchange of gases. So each reason is actually explaining how that benefits the exchange of gas rate. See, the alveolar wall is one cell thick. Okay, that's the stating the adaptation, right? Then here is the explaining of how one cell thick is good. So one cell thick means shorter diffusion distance. Shorter distance for oxygen and carbon dioxide to travel. That therefore increases diffusion rate. Okay, another example, small and numerous is just the feature, but how is this beneficial? Because that increases SA to V, therefore increases diffusion rate. So it's actually explaining every point. So describe how is an explain question. So here are even more differences between describe and explain answers. So you can see here, right, that describe the body's responses to cold temperature. So this is just the memory shortcut MASS, which is metabolic rate. Okay, if it's cold, then metabolic rate increase, generate more heat energy to raise your temperature. Arterioles cold constrict, so arterioles will constrict. And then sweat glands, they become less active. Because obviously, right, when you're cold, do you sweat more? No, you sweat less. This one is quite intuitive. And then shivering, you shiver when you're cold, right? Yeah, so shivering will be activated. So you just say these 4 things. And that is just a describing these processes. But then if the question changes to describe how, notice I also increase the mark allocation here, right? Because there's going to be more demand. Describe how does the body respond. So it's not just, oh, tell me the responses, but tell me how does the body even know to respond? How does it even react in the first place? Okay, so how it reacts to the change in temperature is the hypothalamus detects this. Okay, detects that the internal temperature is now below the set point. And that is what triggers the responses. Okay, so I have to have that line about hypothalamus first, detecting it. That is basically giving a bio reason for why the responses occur. So do you notice it's an explain? Explain is all about giving a reason, bio reasons for why something happens, right? So I first give a bio reason and then I describe the responses, the MASS responses. Okay, so it's an implicit explain because it's a describe how question. Hey guys, today's sponsor of the video is me. As of making this video, ThatBioTutor is Singapore's only O-level pure bio specialist. You mean you don't teach any other subjects or syllabus? Yup. That's how we've been able to make so much resources just for your syllabus. Example, concise notes without all the extra fluff. Commonly asked questions that come out under every topic. So you know the exact keywords and phrases to score full marks. Didn't pay attention in class? Crash course clips to the rescue. We've recorded explanations for every concept under every chapter. Find bio a chore to memorize. Flashcards on your phone, which makes it feel like a game. So if you need help with O-level pure bio, what are you waiting for? Click the link below this video or go to ThatBioTutor.com. Now back to the video. Okay, so here is a kind of niche thing, like a minor point, but yet it's a very important one. In this topic, transport in humans, they have questions like this, where describe and explain how blood is pumped from one place to another place. Okay, so describe and explain, there's a special treatment you have to give to such questions. Notice how in my answer here, right? This is also in our CAQ notes, and this one is topic 6, so it's free. You can go and access that if you're a Telegram channel. You can see that blood pressure rises, and then that causes the blood to move from atria to ventricle, past the bicuspid valve. So blood pressure is the explanation, the reason for why blood moved. And then here another one again, blood pressure rises, and then that causes blood to move from left ventricle to aorta. So it's explaining why the blood moves, the reason behind why the blood moved. Okay, so that's an explain question. You must use blood pressure to explain why blood moves. But if it's just a pure describe question with no explain in this topic, You do not need to talk about blood pressure. So here's an example. Describe the route taken by blood from intestine to kidney. Then you notice here throughout this entire thing, I have no blood pressure. I didn't mention, I just say blood moves from here to here. Okay, A to B, B to C, C to D. Blood just moves. I don't need to say why did the blood move, how did the blood move. I don't need to say that. So describe questions are so-called more superficial. You don't need to explain as deep because it's not an explain question. Okay, at this point you might be a bit panicking. How on earth are we supposed to know this kind of small nuance and small detail when answering these kind of questions from various topics? Okay, and first way to solve this problem is our notes. Okay, our full topical notes. Like see, this one is a topical like content notes, right? For every topic is free and is available to public. And then for topics 1 to 6, like transport and humans, is topic 6, then it is free to the public also.
And that's a great price.
Okay, and plus that is why you go to a specialist tuition center if you need help for bio. You don't go to some general center that they teach multiple subjects and then they happen to also teach bio, because how on earth are they going to focus and find out all these small details about the subject to really help their students? Okay, and that's why I also quite pissed about how like many centers they teach many different subjects, because like how on earth are you doing that and providing high quality? Okay, that is why I'm very adamant on that ThatBioTutor just teaching bio only. And that's why for now we only teach O-level pure bio, because we want to be so good and give you high quality education before we move on to expanding to other levels. Okay, next we come to suggest questions, which actually might be the most annoying ones out of all of them. So suggest questions want you to figure out a logical answer that fits with, number one, the data given in the question, and second one, with your bio knowledge / with reality. It cannot be something that doesn't fit reality lah, okay? And it often isn't explicitly taught in the syllabus. Okay, so here's an example. Suggest what causes the fall in blood pressure as blood passes from aorta to vena cava. So this one actually is, though it's not explicitly taught in syllabus, right? But you can learn it. So it's in our notes. I put it in our notes already. And the reason is the further from the aorta, the lower the blood pressure will be due to loss of energy. So that's basically the reason, loss of energy, and it's 1 mark. So that's enough already. That's the answer. Okay, let's go to more difficult suggest questions. Okay, let's look at another example. A patient with lung disease is inactive and consuming too much carbohydrate and fat. Okay, so they're not moving, they're not exercising, they're eating too much. Suggest and then explain, give bio content reasons, the effect of this behavior on the patient's circulatory system and health. So first let's suggest what will happen for such a person. Okay, inactive and eating too much. You probably can intuitively guess that, okay, they will eventually put on more weight, right? And put on more fat. So overweight and obesity. So that's why I suggested here, increases the risk of obesity. Okay, then explain on the circulatory system, right? How could it impact? So here's another logical thing that I came up with that fits with the question and fits with real life. Okay, puts additional strain on the already overworked heart. So you might be like, we didn't really learn this in syllabus, and yes, you did not. I had to come up with this suggestion, so which has to compensate for poorer gas exchange due to the lung disease. So they really say got lung disease, right? So what is lung disease? Well, example emphysema, example chronic bronchitis. So all these kind of lung diseases, do they make it harder to breathe or easier to breathe? Harder to breathe, right? So do you think you can get as much oxygen? No. So how will the body compensate? Breathe faster, pump the blood faster around the body. Okay, so the heart is being overworked because it is trying to compensate, so it pumps faster than normal. Why? Because the person has lung disease. So you notice that this part here, I'm going to highlight it yellow, because it's the suggestion. Yeah, we have suggested this. And does it fit with reality? Yes. Does it fit with the question? Yes. So that's how you suggest something. Okay, then it also increases the risk of atherosclerosis. Atherosclerosis is basically what will then lead to heart attack if the blood clot, if it ruptures and then blood clot. So saying this point, was it in the question? Did the question say that, the person will get a heart attack, or explain how the person will get a heart attack? No. So I came up with it. It was a suggestion. And why did I come up with this suggestion? Because I know in the content that what increases the risk of atherosclerosis? Lack of exercise, smoking, consuming too much carbohydrate and fat, like diet high in saturated fat. Yeah, these kind of reasons are already in our content. Okay, and if you need revision, you can just go to our notes. Okay, topic 6. Okay, so these are preventive measures to heart attack, right? So that means that if you do the opposite, then you will increase your chance of heart attack. You increase your chance. And what causes heart attack is, first it must start off with atherosclerosis. Okay, basically where your arteries get clogged, right? So that's my suggestion. And then all this stuff, right, is actually from CAQs, heart attack explanation. Yeah, how does a heart attack occur? So all this stuff, right, is already studied because I know that this will commonly come out. So I just copy paste here to explain how atherosclerosis will impact the circulatory system and health. Basically, how does it impact? It gives you a heart attack, or it increases the chance of you getting a heart attack. Okay, so that was a suggest example. Okay, here's another one. So this one, right, is more about so-called common sense questions. I know it's a bit difficult because it's, even though it's so-called common sense, but it's hard to see, such as this one, it's a bit hard to see. And this is why doing more various types of questions like we do with our students in class, our worksheets, we try to give you a variety of questions so that you're exposed, and then when this kind of questions, similar thing comes out in your exam, then it's easy for you because you don't have to think out of the box. We basically give you more questions to widen your box so that you don't have to think out of the box. Yeah, and doing this yourself, how would that look like? Doing more practice papers, going for those weirder questions. So suggest why y-axis presented in per 100,000 instead of absolute numbers. Okay, so I just pasted in the context for this question, and you can see that the y-axis here, right, is not an absolute number. It's, let's say, for this highest point, 2000, this is like 155, okay? So 155 per 100,000 in this year for this age group. So that means, right, if the age group of 75 and above is 100,000 people in total, then how many people got hospitalized in that year would be 155. But if this age group is 500,000, then that means that I need to take 155 times 5. Okay, so then whatever that number is, that is the actual number of these elderly who got hospitalized. So that's how to read this graph. And then this question is asking you, suggest why the graph presents it like this. Why don't they present it like normal? Like, why don't you just, put the absolute numbers there? Why need to say per 100,000? Why not just say annual hospitalization number of people, right, for the y-axis? And so here is the explanation which I also gave during our lesson when we taught this. You can see here that for the younger age group, right, like 15 to 64, this is probably a very huge number of people. So I drew a big graph bar like this to show you this is the total number. Okay, then this one is the 65 to 74, smaller, and then those 75 and above, even smaller number of people. Okay, then the shaded part of the bar shows you how many people of this group were hospitalized. So this shaded area, maybe it's 2,000 people were hospitalized in that year. Then this other graph, maybe this number of people, let's say it's also 2,000. Let's say it's very exact, also 2,000. And then this last one, also 2,000 people hospitalized. So if the data up here showed in absolute numbers, then it would just be like that. Okay, it will just be 2,000, and then we'll see just all the same height. So suggest why they chose not to do this. Why did they not do this? Why did they instead show per 100,000? Okay, and the reason is because you can clearly see, right, it's misrepresenting, it's misleading data. Because if I only see the absolute numbers like this, right, I would think that all age groups are equally impacted. All age groups, same number of people get hospitalized. But when I see it as a proportion, right, because per 100,000 is a proportion, then it's basically kind of like converting to percentage. Okay, it's not exact because 100,000, right, not per 100 people. But it's similar to percentage. So you can see how the percentage of people impacted is actually the highest here for the oldest people, which makes sense, right? The disease usually impacts the oldest the most. So now we can get a more accurate picture of how each age group is impacted. That, oh, the youngest one is actually the least impacted. This one older, more impacted, and this one is very impacted. And that's exactly what we can see from here. You can see that the old people one is highest rates of hospitalization, whereas the younger people is very low. So that is why they do it this way, to show the proportion. Okay, because comparing by absolute numbers can be misleading. And the reason is the total populations of each category here, the total bar, is not the same. If the bar is all the same, then we'll instantly see the proportions, right? But yeah, because the total is not the same, it's not a fair comparison unless we make them all to the same denominator, so per 100,000. Okay, so that was it for suggest questions. And now I'm going to show you how to answer all aspects of the question. Means listen to all the command words and make sure you give something to satisfy each command word. Okay, imagine that, like, you know, this question, describe and explain. Describe is like your mother, okay, then explain is like your father. So your mother say, hey, I need you to wash the dishes. Then your father say, oh, I need you to sweep the floor, right? So you need to fulfill both expectations. You need to do both. If you only do one and you don't do the other, then you're going to get in trouble. So you need to give both, then you get full marks, okay? So describe two features about this plant. Okay, this is actually a leaf of marram grass, which is adapted to survive in hot and dry conditions. So describe, and then with each feature, you need to explain it. How does it help with losing less water? Because that's how you can survive, by conserving more water. So describe means there are hairs around the stomata. Okay, that's a description, right, of the feature. Then I gotta explain why the hairs help with surviving. Okay, and this is the explanation. Basically, it increases humidity, that decreases transpiration, conserve water so you won't die. So that is feature 1, explanation 1. Next, describe feature 2, thick cuticle. Explain, because thicker cuticle further reduces water loss through evaporation. Yeah, so this is fulfilling both aspects of the question. Answer all aspects, satisfy all the parties in the question. Then you can get full marks. Hey guys, if that was helpful for you, then subscribe to our channel. If you'd like to join our O-level pure bio tuition classes, click the link below or go to ThatBioTutor.com.